My name is Deanna, and at 32 years old I thought I had my career path all figured out. 8 years at Apex Innovations had taken me from an eager college graduate to director of marketing building campaigns that transformed our brand. Then Bradley Wells waltzed in as our new CEO, and suddenly decided I was expendable. What he failed to realize, the company founder had given me protection he never knew existed. His mistake would cost him everything. Before I tell you how I took back my career, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever dealt with workplace injustice. Trust me, you'll want to see how this power play unfolded. My journey at Apex Innovations began right after I completed my degree in marketing and business administration at Northwestern. I was 24, ambitious, and absolutely determined to make my mark in the business world. Apex wasn't a tech giant back then, just a promising mid-sized company with innovative products and an authentic vision. I started as a marketing coordinator, often the first to arrive and last to leave the office. Those early years shaped me. I developed campaigns that spoke directly to our customers' needs rather than following industry trends. My first major campaign increased our conversion rates by 30%, catching the attention of Mr. Richardson, our founder. He was a visionary who built Apex from his garage 20 years earlier. Unlike many founders who get lost in their own mythos, Richard Richardson remained humble and approachable. Marketing isn't about flashy presentations, he told me during one of our early meetings. It's about understanding people so well that your product feels like the answer they've been searching for. That philosophy guided my approach as I rose through the ranks. By my third year, I became marketing manager, leading a team of 5. We developed the Apex Answers campaign that positioned our products as solutions to everyday problems. The campaign went viral, expanding our market reach into 3 new states and increasing revenue by 45% year over year. Mr. Richardson noticed. During my 5th year, he promoted me to director of marketing, with a team of 15 people and control over our entire marketing budget of $7 million. I felt both honored and terrified, but Mr. Richardson had confidence in me that I hadn't yet found in myself. You have an intuitive understanding of what makes people connect with a brand, he said during my promotion meeting. That's something that can't be taught. The company culture under Mr. Richardson fostered loyalty and innovation. We had flexible working hours, competitive benefits, and a sense that our work mattered. Friday afternoon brainstorming sessions often turned into casual gatherings where the best ideas emerged over pizza and soda. The hierarchy existed but never felt oppressive. My rise didn't happen in isolation. Janet became my assistant during my 4th year, sharp, organized, and fiercely loyal. She managed my calendar with military precision while keeping me informed about office dynamics I might miss while focused on campaigns. Marcus from finance became an unexpected ally. Initially, we clashed over budgets, but after working together on a complex pricing strategy, we developed mutual respect. He appreciated my data-driven approach, and I valued his financial insights. Our collaboration resulted in optimized spending that increased our marketing ROI by 30%. The board consisted of 7 members with varying backgrounds. 3 were old guard friends of Mr. Richardson who shared his values. The other 4 were newer investors who brought fresh perspectives, but sometimes pushed for faster growth at the expense of company culture. This division would later become significant. Patricia headed human resources, methodical by the book, but ultimately fair. She implemented proper protocols while understanding that rigid policies sometimes needed flexibility for the right circumstances. The other department heads varied in their styles, but we functioned as a cohesive leadership team, meeting weekly to align our goals. Everything changed when Mr. Richardson announced his stepping back. His doctor had discovered early signs of heart disease, and at 67 he decided to prioritize his health. The board initiated a search for a new CEO, while Mr. Richardson transitioned to chairman with reduced involvement. The search lasted 3 months. Candidates came and went until Bradley Wells emerged as the frontrunner. His resume sparkled with impressive achievements: Stanford MBA, successful stints at 2 tech companies, and a reputation for aggressive growth strategies. The board, particularly the newer investors, seemed captivated by his confident presentations and bold promises. I remember our first meeting clearly. Bradley wore an impeccably tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced, and his eyes constantly assessed everything, calculating value and weakness with equal precision. "I'm excited to build on the foundation here," he told the leadership team during his introduction. "But prepare for change. What got Apex here won't get us to the next level." At first, I attempted to build a working relationship with him. I prepared a comprehensive presentation about our marketing strategy, complete with data showing our consistent growth and customer acquisition costs well below industry average. Bradley listened with an expression I would later recognize as his tolerating mediocrity face. "Interesting approach," he said afterward. "Very traditional. Let's discuss modernizing these strategies soon." The warning signs appeared quickly. Within 2 weeks, he implemented a new reporting structure that required all directors to submit daily progress reports. He rescheduled our relaxed Friday brainstorming sessions to formal Monday morning strategy meetings that began at 7:30. The casual, creative atmosphere that had fostered our best work began to stiffen under new policies that prioritized metrics over innovation. But I adapted. We all did. Change is part of corporate life, and I believed that proving my team's value would ensure our place in the new Apex. I couldn't have been more wrong. Bradley Wells brought his Silicon Valley mindset to our Midwest company like a bull in a china shop. He introduced terms like move fast and break things and disruptive innovation into every conversation. While these concepts have merit in the right context, Bradley wielded them like blunt instruments, dismissing 8 years of established processes as legacy thinking without understanding their purpose. His management approach centered around competition rather than collaboration. He implemented a new performance ranking system that rated every department and individual on a curve, ensuring that 15% of employees would always fall into the needs improvement category regardless of actual performance. This created an atmosphere of anxiety and constant comparison. "Only exceptional performance moves us forward," became his catchphrase during all-hands meetings, and exceptional performance requires exceptional pressure. Bradley brought in 4 executives from his previous companies, a new CTO, CFO, COO, and Chief Strategy Officer, all men who shared his aggressive style and inside jokes. They formed an inner circle that made decisions in private golf outings and exclusive dinners, to which existing leadership rarely received invitations. Despite these challenges, I committed to making my department thrive under the new regime. I adjusted our marketing strategies to include more digital analytics, implemented the daily reporting system efficiently, and trained my team to document everything meticulously to meet Bradley's requirements for data-driven decision-making. When Bradley set a goal of increasing lead generation by 60% within 1 quarter, a target marketing professionals would recognize as nearly impossible without massive budget increases, my team worked evenings and weekends to redesign our entire funnel. We incorporated new technologies, optimized our content strategy, and leveraged partnerships creatively. Against all odds, we achieved a 58% increase, just shy of his unrealistic target. Instead of recognition, Bradley's response was, "This proves the target was too low. Next quarter, we're aiming for 100% growth." Throughout this period, I made consistent efforts to build a professional relationship with him. I scheduled one-on-one meetings to understand his vision better, invited him to marketing presentations to showcase our work, and sent him relevant industry reports with personalized notes. His responses grew increasingly brief and dismissive. Meanwhile, I focused on protecting my team from the worst aspects of the new culture. I absorbed pressure from above while maintaining a supportive environment for them. When 2 team members received poor ratings despite excellent work, I successfully appealed the decisions with extensive documentation of their contributions. Our Q3 marketing campaign exemplified our adaptation and excellence. We created an integrated approach that combined traditional media with emerging platforms, resulting in our most successful product launch ever. Sales exceeded projections by 72%, and customer acquisition costs dropped by 31%. The campaign won 2 industry awards and generated positive media coverage that boosted our corporate profile. The morning after the campaign metrics were finalized, I compiled a comprehensive report for Bradley, expecting at least acknowledgement of this undeniable success. His response was a calendar invitation for a meeting that Friday afternoon. That Friday started normally. I reviewed campaign data with my team in the morning, had lunch with Marcus to discuss Q4 budget allocations, and prepared for what I assumed would be a strategy discussion with Bradley. I wore my favorite navy blue suit, the one I reserved for important presentations, and brought a tablet loaded with our latest results. When I arrived at Bradley's office at 3:30, Patricia from HR was already seated inside. My first thought was that she might be there to discuss performance bonuses for my team, given our recent success. Bradley gestured to a chair without rising or offering a handshake. "Deanna, we're restructuring the marketing department effective immediately," he stated without preamble. His tone carried the bored efficiency of someone discussing an inventory adjustment rather than a person's career. "I don't understand," I replied, genuinely confused. "We just delivered the most successful campaign in company history." "The results were adequate," Bradley said, glancing at Patricia rather than meeting my eyes. "But your methods are outdated. We need forward-thinking leadership for our next growth phase." He continued with corporate phrases clearly designed to obscure, rather than clarify strategic realignment, fresh perspective, and different direction. Patricia slid a folder across the table containing termination paperwork. The shock must have shown on my face because Patricia adopted a gentler tone. "You'll receive 8 weeks of severance pay and benefits through the end of the month." "This is completely unexpected." I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can you help me understand the specific concerns with my performance?" Bradley checked his watch. "The decision is final. We have a company announcement at 4:30, so we'll need to conclude this meeting promptly." He nodded toward the door where 2 security guards waited. "Company protocol requires escort for departing executives. Your personal items have been packed." The humiliation of being marched through the office I had helped build for 8 years past shocked colleagues, and my own confused team burns in my memory. The security guards, Mike and Trevor, who normally greeted me with friendly smiles each morning, now awkwardly avoided eye contact as they walked slightly behind me toward the exit. At reception, a cardboard box waited containing 8 years of professional life, condensed into portable form. My awards family photos, the handwritten note from Mr. Cards's, Richardson congratulating me on my first successful campaign, all hastily packed by someone else's hands. Janet stood near the elevators, tears in her eyes. Breaking protocol, she quickly hugged me. "This isn't right," she whispered. "Call me tonight." The drive home passed in a blur. I pulled into my driveway and sat motionless for 20 minutes, unable to gather the energy to carry my box of belongings inside. The weight of sudden professional execution felt paralyzing. Once inside, I finally broke down. 8 years of dedication, countless nights and weekends sacrificed for the company, relationships strained by my commitment to work, all ended with a 15-minute meeting and an escorted exit. The sense of injustice crashed over me in waves of anger, humiliation, and profound grief. That first weekend after my termination unfolded in stages of grief. Friday night, I remained in shock, barely able to process what had happened. I ignored calls from concerned friends and family needing space to absorb the reality of my situation. I ordered takeout that remained uneaten, and spent hours staring at the ceiling, replaying every recent interaction with Bradley, searching for signs I might have missed. Saturday morning brought the anger phase. I paced my apartment, composing and deleting scathing emails to Bradley and the board. I contemplated legal action, workplace discrimination, claims, anything to channel my rage into action. By afternoon, the practical concerns began to surface. I reviewed my finances, calculated how long my savings would last, and updated my resume mechanically, though the thought of job interviews felt overwhelming. Sunday brought waves of despair. My identity had become so intertwined with my role at Apex that its sudden amputation left me questioning my professional worth. If 8 years of proven success could end so abruptly, what guarantees did any career path offer? I finally answered messages from my closest friends and family, their support providing small comfort against the looming Monday. The first in nearly a decade, I wouldn't be heading to my office at Apex. My sister Lisa visited Sunday evening, bringing dinner and practical advice from her experience as a human resources consultant. "Document everything while it's fresh in your mind," she advised. "Dates, achievements, conversations, anything that contradicts their narrative about your performance." I spent that evening creating a detailed timeline of my tenure at Apex, focusing particularly on the period since Bradley's arrival. The exercise proved therapeutic, reminding me of my consistent record of success despite increasingly difficult circumstances. Monday morning, my phone rang at 7:15. Janet's name appeared on the screen. "I can only talk for a few minutes," she said, her voice hushed. "I'm using the stairwell phone. They announced your departure at the 4:30 meeting on Friday. Bradley made it sound like you had been underperforming for months, and they had given you multiple chances to improve. My stomach tightened. That's completely false. Everyone on your team knows that Janet assured me, but they brought in Bradley's friend Cameron from his previous company and introduced him as the new marketing director. He started today and called a department meeting for 9:30. Cameron Wilson, I asked, recalling Bradley mentioning a marketing genius friend during his early days. Yes, apparently they worked together at Tech Drive. He's already talking about revolutionary changes to our marketing approach. Janet paused. Your team is upset. Rachel and Daniel asked direct questions about why you left so suddenly, and Bradley shut them down immediately. She continued sharing details about the aftermath, how Bradley had instructed IT to redirect all my email access, reassigned my ongoing projects, and told people not to contact me as it would interfere with the transition. There's something else, Janet added, her voice dropping further. Marcus wants to meet with you. He said it's important and should be off-site. He suggested that coffee shop on Maple Street tomorrow at 11. Can you make it? Of course, I replied, curiosity temporarily overriding my despair. I need to go before someone notices I'm missing. We're all with you, Deanna. The line went dead. The next morning, I arrived at Maple Street Coffee 15 minutes early, choosing a corner table with a view of both entrances. I wore casual clothes but applied my usual professional makeup, small armor, against feeling diminished. Marcus arrived precisely at 11, carrying his leather messenger bag and scanning the room before approaching my table. Always meticulous in his appearance today, he seemed slightly rumpled with faint shadows under his eyes. Thank you for meeting me, he said, setting his bag on an empty chair and ordering a black coffee when the server approached. Janet said it was important, I replied, though I'm surprised you're willing to be seen with the recently terminated. Marcus winced. What happened to you is unconscionable. That's partially why I'm here. He glanced around before continuing in a lower voice. Bradley has been manipulating financial projections since his second month. He unzipped his bag just enough to slide a manila folder partially out, showing me its contents without fully removing it, a precaution that seemed melodramatic until I saw what the documents contained. These are the original growth projections my team prepared based on 5 years of data, he explained, pointing to a chart. And these are the adjusted numbers Bradley presented to the board last month. He's systematically painting a picture of company underperformance while implementing cost-cutting measures that create actual underperformance. Why would he deliberately damage the company he's supposed to be leading, I asked, though a sinking feeling suggested I already knew. Because he doesn't want to lead it, he wants to acquire it at a discounted price. Marcus flipped to another document. Bradley has connections to Vortex Capital, a private equity firm specializing in acquiring undervalued companies. 3 companies where he previously served as executive have been acquired by Vortex after periods of underperformance following his arrival. The pattern was clear. Bradley would enter a company, create internal chaos while presenting poor results to the board, drive down the company's valuation, then facilitate acquisition by his private equity partners, likely with lucrative compensation for himself. The board has called a special meeting next Thursday to discuss current performance and strategic options, Marcus continued. I believe Bradley will use this opportunity to suggest considering acquisition offers, potentially even revealing one from Vortex that's been prepared in advance. I processed this information slowly, anger building with each connection I made, so my termination was never about your performance, Marcus confirmed. Your marketing success contradicted the narrative he's building about company decline. Plus, you had Mr. Richardson's trust and too much historical knowledge of actual performance metrics. He hesitated before adding, there's something else you should know. When Mr. Richardson restructured the company 5 years ago, he created special provisions in the charter for certain key executives who had been with him from early days. As the company grew, he added others to this category, people he considered essential to Apex's culture and success. What kind of provisions, I asked. Enhanced protection against termination without board approval, guaranteed board representation in certain circumstances, and a few other safeguards. Marcus looked at me intently. You were added to this list 3 years ago after the Apex Answers campaign. Technically, Bradley didn't have unilateral authority to terminate you without a board vote. My mind raced through the implications. Are you saying my termination wasn't just unethical but potentially illegal under the company charter? Precisely. Bradley either didn't know about these provisions or assumed no one would check the specific language in the original charter documents. Marcus checked his watch. I need to get back for a budget meeting, but I wanted you to have this information before the board meeting. I can send you the relevant charter sections tonight. As he stood to leave, I asked, "Why are you helping me, Marcus?" "You're risking your position." He paused. 8 years of working together means something to me, and I believe in what Mr. Richardson built. Bradley would dismantle it all for personal gain. He straightened his tie. Besides, someone needs to stop him. I think that someone might be you. After Marcus left, I sat for another hour organizing my thoughts and beginning to see beyond my personal injury to the larger pattern at play. Bradley hadn't just wronged me. He was actively undermining a company that supported families, created valuable products, and maintained ethical business practices. For the first time since my termination, I felt something beyond anger or despair. I felt purpose. That evening, I received an encrypted email from Marcus containing scanned pages from the original company charter. I printed them immediately and spread them across my dining table armed with highlighters and sticky notes. The legal language was dense, but after reading it 3 times, the significance became clear. Under Article 7, Section 4, Mr. Richardson had created a category called Charter Personnel Key Employees, considered fundamental to company operations and culture. These individuals received special protections, including a requirement that termination required either A, documented performance improvement plan spanning at least 60 days, or B, a formal vote by at least 60% of the board. The list of charter personnel appeared in Appendix C, updated annually. As Marcus had indicated, my name had been added 3 years prior. Bradley had bypassed both requirements in terminating me, rendering the action technically invalid under company bylaws. More significant was Section 6, which stated that charter personnel maintained specific rights even after separation from the company. These included access to board meetings when matters directly affecting their former departments were discussed, and temporary voting rights on matters related to company acquisition or dissolution. Most surprisingly, the charter contained what amounted to a corporate immune system, a provision that if charter personnel were improperly terminated and evidence existed of actions against company interests by current leadership, they could petition for emergency board oversight, with temporary reinstatement pending investigation. I nearly knocked over my coffee when I understood the implications. This wasn't just about getting my job back. It was a mechanism specifically designed to protect the company from the exact situation Bradley had created. The next morning, I contacted Eleanor Gates, a corporate attorney recommended by my sister. Her office, located in a converted Victorian house downtown, felt more like a library than a legal practice with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and antique furniture. These provisions are unusual, but entirely enforceable, Eleanor confirmed after reviewing the documents. Mr. Richardson created sophisticated protections against hostile internal actions. Most founders focus solely on external threats. So my termination violated company bylaws, I asked. Without question. No performance improvement plan, no board vote. She adjusted her glasses. More importantly, you have standing to attend the upcoming board meeting and present evidence regarding potential harm to company interests. We spent 3 hours outlining a strategic approach. Eleanor recommended gathering comprehensive documentation in several categories: personal performance metrics and achievements, evidence of Bradley's contradictory directives, financial records showing actual company performance, testimonials from clients and partners, documentation of Bradley's connections to Vortex Capital. We need absolute precision, Eleanor advised. Bradley will attempt to discredit you as a disgruntled former employee. Every claim must have irrefutable documentation. I worked methodically over the next 5 days, creating a comprehensive portfolio. Janet provided internal communications showing Bradley's contradictory instructions and Cameron's new marketing directives that abandoned successful strategies. Marcus supplied financial data, revealing the contrast between actual performance and Bradley's presentations to the board. I contacted several key clients with whom I'd built strong relationships over the years. 4 provided letters expressing concerns about recent changes and affirming the value of previous marketing approaches. Two even mentioned being approached by Vortex Capital representatives about potential changes in vendor relationships following an anticipated management restructuring. Through LinkedIn research, I documented connections between Bradley and Vortex executives, including college associations, previous work relationships, and social organization memberships. The pattern became undeniable. Bradley had implemented almost identical changes at two previous companies before they were acquired by Vortex at favorable terms. 3 days before the board meeting, I received an unexpected call from Mr. Richardson himself. "Deanna, I just heard what happened," he said, his voice carrying its familiar warm authority, despite sounding frailer than I remembered. "I've been on an extended Mediterranean cruise with limited communication. My assistant briefed me yesterday." "Mr. Richardson, eh?" "Richard, please. We're beyond formalities after what's happened." He sighed heavily. "I made a terrible mistake in stepping back without ensuring proper succession." Bradley came highly recommended, but clearly those recommendations were motivated by factors other than company welfare. I explained what Marcus and I had discovered about Bradley's connections to Vortex Capital. "That matches what my assistant found in her research," he confirmed. "I'm flying back tomorrow. I'd like to meet with you before the board meeting to coordinate our approach." The following afternoon, I met Mr. Richardson at his lake house, away from potential corporate eyes. Despite his recent health challenges, his mind remained sharp. We reviewed my documentation and legal strategy, making adjustments based on his intimate knowledge of board members' concerns and priorities. "This will be confrontational," he warned. "Bradley won't surrender easily, and he'll have supporters among the newer board members. Are you prepared for that?" I considered the question carefully. The past week had transformed my pain into resolve, my humiliation into determination. "Yes," I answered with conviction that surprised even me. "This isn't just about my position anymore. It's about protecting what you built and what everyone at Apex has contributed to." Mr. Richardson nodded with approval. "You've always understood that Apex is more than balance sheets and product lines. It's a community of people creating value together." He clasped his hands on the table. Bradley never grasped that. He sees companies as assets to be traded, not legacies to be nurtured. We spent hours refining our presentation, anticipating objections, and preparing responses. I rehearsed until each point flowed naturally, supported by specific documentation. We decided Mr. Richardson would attend the meeting, but allow me to present our case, intervening only if absolutely necessary. The night before the board meeting, I laid out my most authoritative outfit, a charcoal gray suit, cream silk blouse, and the pearl necklace my grandmother left me. I rehearsed in front of my mirror, adjusting my posture and expression to project confident authority rather than defensive anger. Sleep came fitfully, but when my alarm sounded at 6, I felt surprisingly calm. The uncertainty was gone. Whether we succeeded or failed, I would stand for what was right with dignity and evidence. As I applied my makeup with steady hands, I realized this confrontation had already returned something Bradley had taken from me, my sense of professional purpose and self-worth. Whatever happened next, I was ready. Thursday morning dawned clear and crisp. I selected my outfit with strategic precision. The charcoal gray suit projected authority without aggression. The cream blouse softened the overall effect, and my grandmother's pearls connected me to generations of strong women in my family. I applied my makeup carefully, opting for a natural look that conveyed professionalism rather than trying to impress. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 o'clock in the main conference room on Apex's top floor. According to our plan, I would arrive at 9:55, just as board members would be settling in, but before the formal start. This timing would minimize hallway encounters, while ensuring I wasn't interrupting proceedings already underway. I parked in the visitor section of the garage rather than my old spot, which had undoubtedly been reassigned. The security guard at the front desk, Ron, who had greeted me every morning for 8 years, did a double take when I approached. "Miss Morrison, I didn't expect. Welcome back." His confused expression shifted to concern. "I'm not sure if you're on the approved visitor list." I smiled reassuringly. "I'm attending the board meeting, Ron. You can check with Mr. Richardson if necessary." Ron made a quick call, his eyebrows rising at whatever response he received. "You're all set, Miss Morrison. Do you remember the way up?" Like I was here yesterday, I replied, accepting the visitor badge he extended. The elevator ride to the 10th floor gave me a moment to center myself. I touched the leather portfolio containing our documentation, drawing confidence from the evidence assembled inside. When the doors opened, I stepped out with deliberate posture, shoulders back, chin slightly raised, pace measured and purposeful. Patricia from HR spotted me first as I approached the conference room. Her professional composure slipped, momentarily revealing genuine shock before she recovered. "Deanna, this is unexpected. The board meeting is private." "I'm aware, Patricia. I'm here at Mr. Richardson's invitation." I maintained eye contact, keeping my tone pleasant but firm. She hesitated clearly, unsure of protocol in this unprecedented situation. Before she could decide on a response, the elevator chimed again, and Mr. Richardson emerged, leaning slightly on a cane that was new since his health issues began. "Ah, Deanna, right on time," he called, his authoritative voice carrying down the hallway. The effect was immediate. Patricia stepped aside, her confusion evident but unwilling to question the company founder. As we approached the conference room doors together, Mr. Richardson whispered, "Remember, let them underestimate you initially. It gives us tactical advantage." Inside, the scene was exactly as we'd anticipated. 7 board members sat around the massive mahogany table with Bradley at the head position Mr. Richardson had previously occupied. His 4 executive team members, the transplants from his previous company, sat along one side. Several other directors, including Cameron, my replacement, occupied chairs along the wall present, but not at the table. Bradley was mid-sentence when we entered something about aggressive restructuring opportunities. He stopped abruptly, his expression cycling rapidly from surprise to confusion to carefully controlled anger. "Richard," he recovered smoothly, standing to offer his hand. "We weren't expecting you. The healthcare team advised against travel for at least another month. Some situations require personal attention, Bradley." Mr. Richardson's tone remained cordial as he shook Bradley's hand briefly before turning to the board. "Good morning, everyone. I hope you'll forgive my unannounced return, but recent developments demand direct oversight." Bradley's gaze shifted to me, his eyes narrowing. "Miss Morrison is no longer with the company. This is a closed board meeting." I maintained composed silence, allowing Mr. Richardson to respond. "Deanna is here at my invitation, and her presence is appropriate under Article 7 of the company charter." Mr. Richardson moved toward his traditional seat at the head of the table. Bradley remained standing, blocking the path. "I'm chairing this meeting as CEO. We have a full agenda to cover." The tension in the room thickened. Board members exchanged uncomfortable glances, witnessing a power struggle none had anticipated. Mr. Richardson, despite his physical frailty, projected the quiet authority of someone who had built a company from nothing. "Of course," Mr. Richardson conceded with unexpected grace. "Please continue as planned. Deanna and I will observe until the appropriate agenda item." Bradley seemed momentarily thrown by this easy acquiescence, but recovered quickly. "Security can show Miss Morrison to a waiting area until we determine if her presence is warranted." At this, I finally spoke. "That won't be necessary. My rights under the charter are quite specific." I placed my portfolio on the table, claiming space symbolically. Bradley's face flushed slightly. He gestured toward the door where 2 security officers had appeared, the same team who had escorted me out a week earlier. "Company policy is clear about unauthorized personnel." The board chairman, William Foster, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a 5-minute recess to sort this out." "There's nothing to sort out." Bradley's voice rose slightly. "Former employees don't attend board meetings. It's a fundamental security and confidentiality issue." I remained standing calmly beside my portfolio. The security officers looked distinctly uncomfortable, caught between contradicting the CEO or potentially removing the company founder and a former executive from a meeting. Bradley stepped closer, lowering his voice, though still audible to those nearby. "You're making a spectacle of yourself. Accept your termination with dignity." I met his gaze directly. "My termination violated company bylaws. I'm exercising my rights under the charter." His expression hardened. "I'm the CEO now, do what I say," he stated loudly, clearly intending to establish dominance before the board. "Security will escort you out." The room fell completely silent. Even Bradley's loyal executives seemed stunned by his public display of raw authority. In that suspended moment of tension, I reached into my portfolio and removed a single business card, my original Apex business card, with a small gold star embossed in the corner, marking charter personnel status. Without speaking, I slid it across the table toward Harold Weber, the company's longtime auditor who sat observing from the side table. Harold had been with Apex almost from the beginning and knew every detail of the company's governance structures. Harold picked up the card, recognition dawning in his eyes. He reached for the company charter binder, always present at board meetings, flipping to a tabbed section with practiced efficiency. The room remained silent as he scanned the relevant pages, occasionally glancing between the charter and my card. Finally, he looked up, first at Bradley, then at the board chairman, then at me. His voice, normally confident when discussing financial matters, carried a note of uncertainty. "Strange. It lists her as chair," he stated, referring to my designation in the charter personnel appendix. "That's impossible," Bradley snapped, striding around the table to examine the document himself. "It's right here in Appendix C," Harold confirmed, pointing to the relevant section. "Miss Morrison was designated as charter personnel 3 years ago. According to Article 7, her termination required either a documented performance improvement plan or a formal board vote." He looked up. "Did either occur?" Before Bradley could respond, the door opened again, and conversation ceased as all eyes turned to the unexpected arrival. Mr. Richardson had made his entrance earlier, but this interruption carried different weight. Mr. Richardson had been expected to return eventually. No one had anticipated seeing Thomas Elliott, the founding legal counsel, who had semi-retired 5 years earlier. Thomas entered with the unhurried confidence of someone intimately familiar with the terrain. At 72, his tall frame remained imposing, his silver hair and tailored suit projecting the gravitas earned through decades of corporate law practice. "I apologize for my lateness," he announced, though no one had been expecting him. Traffic on the bridge was terrible. He nodded to Mr. Richardson and me before addressing the board chairman. "William, I believe we have matters of charter compliance to address before proceeding with the regular agenda." Bradley's composure visibly slipped. "This is an ambush," he declared, looking around the table for support. "A coordinated attempt to disrupt necessary restructuring by disgruntled former leadership." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Interesting characterization. As the author of the original charter and all subsequent amendments, I'm simply here to clarify its provisions as they apply to the current situation." He placed his briefcase on the table. "Unless there are objections to ensuring proper governance." The shift in momentum was palpable. Bradley had lost control of the meeting he had planned to dominate. His executive team remained silent, suddenly uncertain of their position in this unexpected chess match. William Foster, the board chairman, took advantage of the momentary pause. "I think we should hear what Miss Morrison and Mr. Richardson have to present. If charter provisions are at issue, the board has fiduciary responsibility to address them properly." Bradley recognized defeat in this initial skirmish. He returned to his seat, face tight with controlled anger. "By all means," he said, his casual tone belied by his rigid posture. "Let's hear this." Presentation. I opened my portfolio and distributed carefully prepared packets to each board member. "Thank you for allowing me to address these important matters." I began, my voice steady and professional. "I'm here today not merely regarding my improper termination, but because of a pattern of actions that threaten the long-term health of Apex Innovations." For the next 20 minutes, I methodically presented our evidence slides, showing the company's actual performance, contrasted with Bradley's reports, to the board documentation of his contradictory directives, testimonials from concerned clients, and finally the connections between Bradley and Vortex Capital. In conclusion, I stated these actions suggest a deliberate strategy to devalue Apex in preparation for acquisition by Vortex Capital, with whom Mr. Wells has documented prior relationships. This represents a clear conflict of interest and potential breach of fiduciary duty. The room remained silent as board members reviewed the documentation. Even Bradley's supporters appeared troubled by the evidence presented so clearly before them. Bradley finally broke the silence. "These are unfounded accusations from someone bitter about a justified termination. The restructuring decisions were necessary for company health, and any connections to Vortex are coincidental and disclosed appropriately." He turned to his CFO. "Greg, please share the actual financial projections to correct these misleading claims." Greg shuffled through his papers nervously. Before he could speak, Marcus raised his hand. As finance director, I can confirm that the numbers in Miss Morrison's presentation match our internal records. They differ significantly from what has been presented in recent executive summaries. The confrontation had reached its critical point. Everything now depended on the board's reaction to the evidence before them. The tension in the boardroom crystallized into something almost tangible. Board members flipped through my documentation packets with increasing concern, occasionally exchanging glances or whispering to neighbors. Bradley's executive team huddled in hushed consultation, while their leader maintained rigid composure, though the muscle twitching in his jaw betrayed his tension. William Foster, the board chairman, removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose, a gesture I recognized from previous difficult board discussions. "These allegations are extremely serious," he finally stated. "Bradley, would you care to respond specifically to the documentation regarding Vortex Capital?" Bradley leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. "My professional network includes executives at numerous companies, including Vortex. All potential conflicts were disclosed during my hiring process." He gestured dismissively toward my packet. "Selective presentation of business relationships doesn't constitute evidence of wrongdoing." "And the financial discrepancies," William pressed. "Different reporting frameworks for different audiences," Bradley replied smoothly. "Board presentations focus on strategic concerns, while operational reports contain tactical details. Both are accurate within their contexts." It was a practiced response delivered with the confidence of someone accustomed to controlling narratives. I noticed several board members nodding slightly, potentially accepting his explanation despite the evidence before them. Thomas Elliott, the retired legal counsel, cleared his throat. "If I may interject beyond these specific allegations, we have a clear charter violation regarding Miss Morrison's termination. That alone requires immediate board action regardless of other considerations." Bradley waved dismissively. "A technical oversight easily remedied. We can retroactively document the performance concerns and hold a formal vote today to satisfy the letter of the charter." His casual dismissal of governance requirements seemed to shift the mood in the room. Even board members who had appeared receptive to his earlier explanation frowned at this cavalier approach to corporate bylaws. Walter Chen, one of the original board members and normally the quietest voice at the table, spoke up. "The charter isn't a procedural inconvenience, Mr. Wells. It's the foundational governance document of this company." His soft voice carried unexpected authority. "These provisions were created specifically to prevent hasty decisions that might damage company culture and continuity." Before Bradley could respond, the door opened again, and every head turned to see Mr. Richardson returning. He had stepped out briefly during my presentation, a planned absence to contact someone whose identity he had kept confidential even from me. But Mr. Richardson didn't enter alone. Behind him walked Amanda Pearson, Apex's first marketing employee, and my predecessor who had left to become Chief Marketing Officer at Westlake Technologies 3 years earlier. More surprisingly, James Harrington, Bradley's predecessor as CEO at TechDrive, followed them into the room. Bradley's composure visibly faltered. "This meeting is for current board members and invited presenters only," he objected, rising from his seat. "This is becoming a circus rather than corporate governance." "Actually," Thomas interjected, "under Article 9 of the Charter, the board chair may invite relevant witnesses when investigating potential governance violations." He nodded to William. "Though technically that would require your approval, William." William looked momentarily conflicted before nodding decisively. "Given the serious nature of these allegations, I believe hearing from these individuals is appropriate." For the next 30 minutes, Amanda and James presented corroborating testimony that transformed the boardroom atmosphere. Amanda detailed almost identical marketing department disruptions at Westlake immediately after they hired a close associate of Bradley's. James described the systematic undermining of TechDrive's valuation before its acquisition by Vortex Capital, including the termination of key executives who questioned new financial reporting methods. Within 18 months of my departure, TechDrive was acquired by Vortex at 62% of its previous valuation, James concluded. 12 senior executives were replaced during that period, all with people connected to either Bradley Wells or Vortex executives. The pattern had become undeniable. Even Bradley's supporters on the board appeared troubled by the consistent methodology across multiple companies. His executive team sat uncomfortably silent, perhaps recognizing their role in a strategy now exposed to scrutiny. William Foster called for a 30-minute recess for the board to confer privately. As we filed out of the boardroom, Bradley approached me in the hallway, careful to keep his voice low and maintain a neutral expression for observers. Impressive performance, he conceded with cold appreciation. But ultimately futile. The majority investors want growth and return exactly what my strategy delivers. Your quaint concerns about company culture don't translate to shareholder value. I maintained steady eye contact. That fundamental misunderstanding is why you'll fail here. Apex's value isn't just its balance sheet. It's the trust we've built with customers and the innovation that comes from our culture. He smiled thinly. Charming perspective. Let's see which vision the board supports. When we reconvened, the atmosphere had shifted perceptibly. William Foster called the meeting to order with formal gravity. After reviewing the evidence and testimony presented today, the board has reached several preliminary conclusions, he announced. First, regarding Miss Blank. Morrison's termination, we find clear violation of charter requirements. That action is hereby suspended pending full review. Bradley began to interject, but William raised his hand. Please allow me to finish, Bradley. The formality of using his first name rather than his title signaled a significant change in standing. Second, the board has voted to form a special committee to investigate the financial reporting discrepancies documented today. During this investigation, all strategic initiatives, including restructuring acquisitions and divestitures, are temporarily suspended. He turned to Bradley directly. Third, in light of the serious nature of these allegations and charter violations, the board has voted to place you on administrative leave, effective immediately pending completion of our investigation. The room fell completely silent. Bradley's face flushed dark red, but years of corporate training prevented any outburst. His executive team exchanged alarmed glances, suddenly finding themselves allied with a suspended leader. This is a reactionary decision that will damage shareholder value. Bradley stated, his voice tight with controlled anger. I strongly advise against this course of action. Your advice is noted, William replied evenly. However, the vote was unanimous, including representatives from our majority investors, who recognize that governance violations and potential conflicts of interest represent significant risks to long-term value. He turned to address the wider room. Until our investigation concludes, the board has appointed an interim executive committee to manage daily operations. He nodded toward Mr. Richardson. Richard has agreed to temporarily return in an advisory capacity, working with a team, including Marcus Foster, from Finance Patricia Johnson from Human Resources, and, he paused, looking directly at me, Deanna Morrison, who will resume oversight of marketing and communications during this transition. Bradley stood abruptly. This is professionally and legally untenable. You'll be hearing from my attorneys. As you wish, Thomas Elliott responded calmly. Though I suggest they review Section 12 of your employment contract regarding governance compliance before proceeding. The corporate security team, the same officers who had escorted me out the previous week, now stood uncertainly by the door. William nodded toward them, then addressed Bradley directly. Company protocol requires escort for departing executives, he stated deliberately, echoing Bradley's words to me. Your access has been suspended pending investigation. Please surrender your company devices before leaving. The symmetry of the situation, Bradley facing the same humiliating exit he had orchestrated for me, offered no satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge, but restoration of proper governance, ethical leadership, and the company culture that made Apex special. As Bradley and his executive team were escorted from the boardroom, the remaining directors and managers sat in stunned silence, processing the dramatic reversal they had just witnessed. Years of corporate experience had taught me that such moments of organizational trauma required immediate stabilization. I caught Mr. Richardson's eye, receiving his slight nod of approval before I addressed the room. I understand this is shocking for everyone, I acknowledged. But our priority now must be stabilizing operations and reassuring our employees, customers, and partners that Apex remains committed to both innovation and integrity. William Foster nodded appreciatively. Well said. The interim executive committee will meet immediately following this board session to develop a comprehensive transition plan. All department heads should prepare to brief the committee on current status and immediate concerns. As the meeting shifted to procedural matters for implementing the board's decisions, I felt a complex mixture of emotions, vindication, without triumph, relief, without celebration. The system had worked as designed, protecting the company from harmful actions, but the process had been painful for everyone involved. Looking around the room at concerned faces of colleagues who had built this company together, I recognized that the real work rebuilding trust, restoring culture, and renewing purpose was just beginning. The weeks following Bradley's suspension unfolded in a carefully orchestrated transition. The interim executive committee, Mr. Common, Richardson, Marcus, Patricia, and myself established immediate priorities: stabilize internal operations, reassure external stakeholders, and support the board's investigation while maintaining daily business functions. Our first action was an all-company meeting, where we acknowledged recent turmoil while emphasizing continuity of Apex's core mission and values. Rather than vilifying Bradley or his team, we focused on moving forward with transparency and renewed commitment to collaborative innovation. Companies like people occasionally face challenges that test their character, Mr. Richardson told the assembled employees. How we respond to these challenges defines us more than the challenges themselves. The initial employee response: mixed relief with lingering anxiety. 8 years of building trust with my marketing team made my return welcome, but repairing the damage from weeks under Cameron's chaotic leadership required patience and consistent reassurance. Janet organized individual meetings with each team member, creating space for honest conversation about their experiences and concerns. Some had been pressured to abandon successful strategies for flashier but unproven approaches. Others had endured implicit threats about job security if they questioned new directives. A few had even been asked to manipulate campaign metrics to align with Bradley's narrative of marketing underperformance. I felt like I was being asked to deliberately fail. Rachel, our digital marketing specialist, confided during our one-on-one meeting. When I showed Cameron data proving our existing approach outperformed his suggestions, he said I was resistant to innovation and threatened to note it in my performance review. These conversations proved both painful and essential. Acknowledging the trauma people had experienced created foundation for healing, while documenting specific instances of mismanagement provided valuable information for the board's investigation. Beyond my department, similar patterns emerged across the company. The finance team described pressure to present misleading performance metrics. Product development reported interference with roadmaps to create artificial delays in key innovations. Human resources had been instructed to prepare for significant staff reductions despite strong company performance. Marcus led efforts to restore accurate financial reporting, working with an independent auditor to reconstruct true performance metrics separate from Bradley's distorted presentations. The results confirmed our suspicions. Apex remained fundamentally strong with healthy margins and market share growth, despite Bradley's efforts to create appearance of decline. Patricia focused on rebuilding psychological safety, conducting workshops on ethical leadership, and establishing improved channels for employees to report concerns without fear of retaliation. She also implemented enhanced governance training for managers at all levels, ensuring broader understanding of the charter provisions that had ultimately protected the company. Throughout this period, I maintained direct involvement with key clients and partners, personally reaching out to those who had expressed concerns during Bradley's tenure. These conversations required vulnerability, acknowledging organizational challenges while demonstrating our commitment to stability and excellence. We experienced leadership turbulence, but never lost sight of our core values, became my consistent message. The strength of our relationships matters more than temporary disruptions. This transparency approach yielded unexpected benefits. Several clients shared similar experiences with other vendors who had undergone disruptive leadership changes, offering insights that informed our recovery strategy. 2 major clients even accelerated planned expansions of our services, explicitly citing their appreciation for our honest communication during a difficult transition. The board's investigation proceeded methodically, uncovering additional evidence of Bradley's connections to Vortex Capital and documented instances of governance violations. Thomas Elliott's legal guidance ensured the process remained fair while thoroughly examining all allegations. 6 weeks after Bradley's suspension, the board reached unanimous conclusions. His termination was confirmed based on multiple charter violations and documented conflicts of interest. Similar determinations applied to his executive team members who had knowingly participated in misleading the board and undermining company performance. With immediate crisis management complete, we faced more fundamental questions about Apex's future leadership structure. Mr. Richardson's health still required reduced involvement, creating need for sustainable executive transition. The board established a comprehensive succession planning committee, prioritizing internal candidates who embodied company values while bringing fresh perspectives. Through this process, I experienced profound personal growth alongside professional restoration. The trauma of my abrupt termination had forced deep reflection about my identity beyond career achievements and title. During those painful days of uncertainty, I had rediscovered strengths independent of professional status, resilience, integrity, and clarity of purpose. This perspective made my participation in leadership rebuilding more grounded and authentic. When the board approached me about assuming the permanent chief marketing officer role with expanded strategic responsibilities, I accepted with both confidence and humility, understanding more deeply the privilege and responsibility of trust. Organizational leadership. 8 months after Bradley's departure, Apex had not merely recovered but evolved. We implemented improved governance structures, enhanced leadership development programs, and more inclusive decision-making processes. Quarterly results showed strong performance, with the marketing department achieving record engagement metrics across all channels. More meaningful than financial results were cultural indicators. Employee satisfaction scores reached all-time highs. Cross-departmental collaboration increased naturally, without forced initiatives. Most tellingly, when a competitor attempted to recruit our top talent with significant salary increases, retention remained near. Perfect people stayed because they valued being part of something meaningful. During a leadership retreat marking our 1-year recovery anniversary, Mr. Richardson pulled me aside for a private conversation on the lakeside deck of the conference center. When I added you to the charter personnel list years ago, I never anticipated how important that decision would become, he admitted, gazing across the water. I simply recognized something in you that aligned with the heart of what I hoped to build, not just a successful company, but a community where people could do their best work with integrity. I was just doing my job, I replied. The charter provisions gave me the mechanism, but the board still had to make the right decision. He smiled. That's precisely why you were the right person at the right moment. You understood this wasn't about personal vindication, but protecting something larger than yourself. He turned to face me directly. Leadership isn't about titles or authority. It's about stewardship, caring for something valuable, and leaving it better than you found it. That conversation crystallized the deeper lesson from our entire experience. Corporate structures like our charter provisions provide essential frameworks, but ultimately organizational health depends on people committed to values beyond personal advancement or quarterly results. In reflecting on my journey from abrupt termination to helping lead Apex's renewal, I recognize the paradoxical truth that sometimes losing what we thought defined us reveals our deeper capabilities. The painful dismantling of my professional identity created space for more authentic leadership grounded in purpose rather than position. The story of how I outsmarted the CEO who fired me isn't ultimately about clever legal maneuvers or dramatic boardroom confrontations. It's about remaining steadfast in commitment to something worth protecting, a community of people creating value together with integrity and mutual respect. In business and in life, true security never comes from title or status, but from alignment between our actions and our values. When those align, even our most challenging experiences become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks on our journey toward meaningful contribution. Have you ever faced a situation where standing up for what's right felt professionally risky? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this corporate revenge story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share with anyone navigating workplace challenges. Remember that integrity isn't just an admirable quality sometimes, it's your most powerful asset when facing injustice. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and may your own career path be guided by both wisdom and courage.